Hey guys, and welcome back to the Bree, Myself, and God channel, where I'm bringing you all things Bree and all things God. And welcome back to the Untethered in 2020 video series. If you have not already gotten hip to my first Untethered video on cutting off toxic relationships, first things first, you need to go watch that. I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it, so I hope that you enjoy. And now I'm coming with part two. The much promised content that I said I would bring you guys on the self-work, because the whole reason that we're interested in having healthy relationships is so that we can have a healthier self. And there's some extra work besides cutting people off and adding good people on that we need to do to make that happen. One of those things is healing from our past pain. And that's going to be what the subject is of today's video. We're going to be talking about 5 reasons why you need to prioritize healing from your past pain and 5 keys to actually engage in that healing process. So if either of those things sound interesting to you, then you should keep watching because we're about to get to it. So in my last video, I talked to you guys about the importance of controlling and really being intentional about your relational environment, the people that you surround yourself with, because they impact the ability that you have to be your best self. And that is true, but that's only half the battle. The other half of the battle is really digging deep and making changes within yourself. And a lot of times when we think about making changes, we're very forward focused, right? We're like, what habits do I need to build? What habits do I need to break? What regimens do I need to start to move towards my goals? And that's all well and good, but sometimes moving forward requires us to deal with looking back a bit. And I'm going to explain to you why. So without further ado, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should prioritize healing from past pain in order to fuel your growth into your future. Reason number 1. In order to be your truest self, you need to be healed. Sometimes the things that we go through in our past can distort different elements of our character, of our personality, because the things that we go through might hurt us, or we might develop different defense mechanisms in response to the different things that we've experienced. And so in order to really live out your full personality, the truth of who you are and who you were created to be, you need to be whole and you need to be healed. Number 2, in order to thrive in your purpose and in your relationships, you also need to be healed, because the pain that we've dealt with and how well we've processed through and healed from that affects how we show up in our goals and our work towards our careers and our purpose and in our relationships. In order to live more fully in your purpose and to connect on a deeper level with people, you need to be healed. Number 3, healing is a source of hope. Life is hard, right? We're going to go through difficult things. And part of how we can hold on to hope in the midst of that is knowing that even if we go through things, we can overcome despite our pain, that we don't have to be completely debilitated by the things that we go through or the things that we experience. And healing is the reason why we can have that hope. We can heal and we can move forward from our past, and that allows us to endure with hope. 4, healing is not just for you. It is for the generations that are coming after you. Whether you're thinking of having kids, or whether you're just an auntie, or you have nieces, nephews, siblings, little cousins, or even mentees, you're passing things on to somebody in the next generation. And how healed or not healed you are determines whether you're passing on wholeness to the next generation or just more brokenness. And last but not least, healing can bring us really, really close to God. I can speak from experience and say that knowing God as your healer is such a sweet, sweet gift. When God helps us through the healing process, it brings us closer to Him because we have a revelation of His love through His healing work in our lives. And so, if those 5 reasons are convincing to you as to why you need to prioritize healing from your past pain, then you should keep watching. Because I'm going to give 5 steps to engage in that healing process. And these are not exhaustive. But I do think that they could be really helpful in thinking through and working through what healing looks like. One thing that I'll say before I jump in though, is that you really need to know that you're in a good space to be able to engage in healing work. It's not just something that you up and do on a whim. You want to make sure that you're in a good place emotionally and relationally to do healing work. And by that, I mean, if you're in a time and place that's healthy for it. If you are emotionally overwhelmed already with what's going on in your regular life, then maybe now's not the best time to dig up things from your past. Or if you're not relationally stable, if you're not surrounded by people that are going to be able to support you as you go through that healing journey, that's something that you might want to have in place so that if you're dealing with different emotions or things, that you have people you can process with, because that's really important too. The good thing about the steps that I'm about to share is that they can be as deep or as not deep as you want them to be. You can apply them to situations that are not that deep, right? But that are affecting you or have had an effect on you. Or you can apply them to some of the deepest traumas from your past that you may not have even realized have had an effect on you. So how deep you go and when you jump into it is up to you. But I just want to give you these tools so that when you are ready to do that work, you have something that can be a bit of a guide into what it can look like. So without further ado, 5 keys to engaging in your healing process. Number 1. Identify sources of past pain that might still be affecting you. This sounds simple, but it's actually really easy to overlook things in our lives that are having an impact on us because they may not be coming up in our day-to-day lives. For me, for example, I recently realized that a relationship that I had from years ago was having an impact on me because somebody brought up, my ex, and I realized that I was having a certain reaction. And I was like, maybe I have some things I need to let go of. Even if like a talk of that actual person or situation doesn't trigger certain reactions in you, you might react to other things that remind you of that. And this is a subconscious process. Being triggered is something that you might be reacting to this situation over here, not even realizing that the reason that you're being hostile or defensive or upset in this situation is because of what you went through in this situation all the way in your past. So you can either look at the situations themselves or how you're acting and how you're reacting to recognize areas of past pain that might still be affecting you. So that's number 1. Number 2, once you've identified the situation that from your past that might still be having an impact on you, the next thing you want to do is go and engage with your feelings around that situation, both from the past and the present. In the past, that might look like revisiting the situation and asking yourself, what was I feeling when I went through this thing? What about the situation made me feel that way? Did I have a place to cope? Did I have a space to express what I was dealing with? Or did I have to suppress my emotions? And how do you feel about it now? Because your feelings were and are valid. If you had feelings that you didn't have space to express when the situation was actually happening, now might be a good time to actually give space and voice to those feelings. You might need to cry. You might need to vent. Journaling can also be a good outlet. Whatever it takes for you, you want to give space to those feelings because that's a way of seeing and hearing your former self, your younger self that went through that situation. That person is still a part of you. And if that younger you that went through that never got a chance to be heard, seen, to say what they were feeling, then that pain might still be deep down inside of you. And giving expression to it allows you to open up the pathway for healing. If you don't give space to those emotions, and if those emotions are never expressed, then they might remain in you as seeds that's brought up as bitterness and strife and depression or anxiety or all types of things that you might not even realize are tied to it. The third thing that I would say is seek out what you needed then and what you need now. In that painful situation, what did you need and not get? It could be that someone hurt you and you simply needed to be treated better. It could be that you needed validation or comfort in a situation that you ended up having to face all by yourself. Sometimes the point of asking this question is just to acknowledge that there was something that you needed that you didn't get, and to acknowledge that just because you didn't get it doesn't mean that you were not worthy of receiving it. Sometimes when we aren't treated the way that we're supposed to be treated, we can internalize feelings of unworthiness or feelings that come along with that. And so realizing that you had a need that was not met is an important place for you to be able to recognize, no, I didn't get what I needed. No, I wasn't treated well, but the way that I was treated is not a reflection of my worth. Your worth is found in your existence as a human being that God has created in his image, not in what happened to you. And sometimes giving that truth to yourself is enough. Other times, it may not be too late to actually seek out something in the present day that you needed all the way back in whatever situation you experienced. For example, if you needed validation for your experiences, then you could go and share that experience with a counselor or a therapist and receive that validation. Or for example, for me, sharing things that I had been through in my past that I was ashamed of with a friend that really affirmed me allowed me to break free from shame. So what I mean by that is there were things that I had gone through, things that I had done that I was deeply ashamed of, and I had been carrying that shame for years. But when I was in undergrad, I made a really close friend who I really trusted, and I opened up about those secrets to this friend. And she told me, like, I don't see you any differently. You're not worth any less to me. Like, you're still who you are. And that was an extremely healing moment for me. And over the years, I've become a much more transparent person. And I have really no problem sharing things that I used to feel deeply ashamed about, because I know that I'm not defined by those things. And it was having the space to share that with trusted people that allowed me to have that healing process. The fourth thing is identify unhelpful thoughts and behaviors that you have taken with you out of that situation, also known as baggage. The beliefs are unhelpful if they're untrue. The behaviors are unhelpful if they're stopping you from living and loving fully. For me, for example, something that I went through was I had a really hard relationship in undergrad. And as a result of it, I formed this protective shell around my heart where I felt like I had to be the one to protect myself from ever being hurt again. And it created this sense in me that was so defensive that I didn't even trust God to protect me. And for me, my relationship with God is really important to me. And as his child, not trusting him to protect me from bad relationships or pain in the future is really an inhibiting thing in my relationship. And so even this morning, I had a breakthrough in church where it was like, I just came to this place of being like, no, like, God, I trust you. And I'm not going to let that one thing that I went through convince me that you're not still my protector, that you're not still in my corner, that you're not looking out for me. Of course, I will continue to guard my heart. I'll continue to be smarter as a result of what I've been through. But I'm not going to hold on to the lie that I can't trust God to protect me as a result of what I've been through. And that's just one example of an unhelpful thought or behavior that we could carry. You might be carrying a thought that your worth is determined by your performance in school or on your job because you were raised to only receive love when you did well. Or you might be carrying a behavior where you don't let anybody get close to you because somebody that you let in hurt you in the past. And while we want to make sure that we're letting people earn our trust and not just giving it away, not letting anyone is stopping you from experiencing relationships that could be really life-giving to you. So when you're looking at thoughts and behaviors that you've carried from past situations, you just want to ask yourself, is this thought pattern, is this behavioral pattern serving me? Is this allowing me to live the life that I want, to have the relationships that I want, to really not be hindered in any of that? If that's not the case, then you can take that behavior or thought and uncover the lie that's at the root of it, because likely if it's not serving you, there's probably a lie at the root of it. Uncover the lie and replace it with truth. And then start to try to retrain your behaviors and your thoughts around the truth that can be replacing the lie. And not only that, but sometimes there are things that we can gain from past situations that we've been through that are good. And sometimes we are so burdened by the pain or the negative things that we took away from the situation that we don't even glean the wisdom or the lesson or the purpose in it. And I think looking back at past seasons and understanding the purpose behind it can be healing in and of itself, to say, I didn't go through that for nothing. I'm wiser in this way, I'm stronger in this way, and this is what I'm taking with me, and I can leave the damaging part behind. Lastly, but not least, key to healing is extending grace and forgiveness to everyone involved in the situation that you're thinking about. Now, step number 4 is key to this. knowing that you can let go of negative thoughts, unhelpful behaviors, and that pain, that in and of itself can help you to be able to forgive. Because if you feel like you're never going to be whole again as a result of what you've been through, then it's really hard to forgive whoever put you through that. But if you know that you can be whole and you can be healed, then that is all the more reason why you are free to forgive. And so there's a few people that might need to be forgiven in any given situation. The first one that I'll start with is ourselves. I know for me, some things that I've been through in my past that were extremely painful, I blame myself for it, because I was like, if I had just been smarter, if I had just listened to the red flags and seen the warning signs, then I wouldn't have even gotten in that hurtful situation. And I shamed myself and blamed myself for that. And while that might be true, hindsight is 20/20, and I'm human. So really what I had to do for me was release myself of that shame and that blame of, you did this. So what? Things happen. Also, just because I wasn't the wisest doesn't mean that I deserve to be treated the way that I did in that situation. So in any case, I need to release myself. And of course, the next group of people to forgive are just other people that might have hurt you in the situation. So identifying how you've been wronged and what you were owed, and then releasing the people that actually owe you that. And there's sometimes debates around whether we should forgive or whether it's necessary or whether it's good or whether we have to. And I just want to make a couple of cases as to why we should forgive. One is that forgiving people does not condone what they did to you. I had somebody mistreat me recently, and I was like, if I forgive this person and if I treat them nicely, then they're going to think that what they did to me was okay. Well, the truth of the matter is that's not what me forgiving them or treating them nicely is saying. Me forgiving is about me saying, not that what you did to me is okay, but that I'm not going to be held hostage to it. The likelihood of the person that wronged you making it right is low. The likelihood that they could even make it right is low. And you don't want to be dependent on that external closure for your wholeness. So letting them go is a part of you taking your power back and walking in your healing that's rightfully yours. Another reason to forgive is that nobody is perfect. Sometimes when people do really, really terrible things to us, we can feel like, well, I would never do that to anyone else and I can never forgive them. And, maybe in your current state you wouldn't, but we're all human, we're all imperfect, and we're all capable of really severely hurting other people. And we may one day we might be on the receiving end or need to be on the receiving end of that mercy. So we want to give that mercy out now. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. And lastly, forgiving is about entrusting yourself to the one who judges justly. Vengeance belongs to God. And any effort that we make to exact vengeance on other people will only contaminate our hearts in the end. So the best thing we can do is give that up to him and free ourselves of that burden. Last but not least, I want to encourage you to consider forgiving God if that's something that you need to do. I know for me, I went through really, really difficult things in the past where I was like, if God is protecting me, if God is my father, then why did he allow this to happen to me? And I was mad at him and I had a lot of questions. And there's a few different things that I think we should consider when having those thoughts. One being that we live in a broken world where bad things inherently happen all the time. And that's not because that's necessarily God's will, but that is the state of things, how things are until God comes back and redeems the world to perfection. We also all have free will. And so things that people have done to us may not necessarily reflect how God would have had us to be treated, but they reflect what that person did. And because God gives us free will, because he doesn't want to control us like robots, because love is about freedom of choice, then sometimes we hurt each other. And similarly, because of our own free will, sometimes we wander into situations that God would have never had us to be in because we missed the warning signs, we missed him trying to redirect us or something of that nature. I'm just going to finish the video because at this point, I'm almost done. So lastly, God's character is consistent through everything that we've been through, God is utterly and consistently and completely good. And it might be hard to understand exactly how that is in our situation, but it is the truth. And he wants to be central to our healing process. He is our healer, and it's hard to receive healing from him when we're still blaming him for what happened to us. So I invite you to open up your heart to God and let him know how you feel, but let him in to show you who he really is to you in the midst of all of this. So those are my 5 keys to engaging in your healing process. Recognize sources of past pain that might still be affecting you. Give space to your feelings, both past and present. Seek out what you needed then and what you need now. And identify and replace baggage that you took with you in the form of unhelpful thought patterns or behaviors. And lastly, forgive. Forgive everybody involved so that you can let go and move into the healing that's already yours. The last thing I'll say is this. Your story doesn't end with your pain. Whatever was stolen from you can be restored. Whatever was broken in you can be healed. Whatever died in you can be revived. This is because Jesus has died for us to have life more abundantly. And so I pray that you walk in that promise. Happy healing. Thank you guys for tuning into the Bree Myself and God channel, where I'm bringing you all things Bree and all things God. I'll see you next time.